What's good, family? So mash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. So, as you might have seen by the title, Lennox Lewis has reacted to Anthony Joshua's defeat against Oleksandr Usyk. He said the following: "Gotta give it up to Usyk on a great tactical performance tonight. For AJ, it's not the end of the road, but you can't be so tentative or wait until the 8th round to turn it on. Learn from this and improve." He also went on to say, "Usyk showed his pedigree in the ring tonight. Amateur champion, Olympic gold medalist, undisputed cruiserweight world champion, and now world heavyweight champion. It pays to take the long road, put in the hard work, and aggressively go after your goals." So there you go then. I'm surprised, to be fair, Lennox Lewis isn't being more vicious towards AJ's team. I do believe, given that AJ and Lennox Lewis have kind of gone back and forth over the last few years, I think probably Lewis is taken, as Lewis gets older and mellows and whatnot, I think he's probably taken the political route. But really, at this point in time, and that's why I feel I'm being more aggressive, is because the last thing AJ needs now, AJ's got a whole load of wet people around him. The last thing he needs now is any more. I'm not saying I'm an influence, but if I can have any influence, the last thing I'm going to do right now is be another one of them dons who are going to sit there on the fence and say, "Oh, it's not so bad," and this is bad. I'm sorry, because if no one else is going to advocate for the fans, I'm going to do it. It's a fact. Many fans accepted what's gone on in the last few months and justified it on the basis that he's won. But now I've noticed a turning. Now, unfortunately, in my opinion, it's a little bit too late. I'd rather have not had a loss against Usyk, but either way, at least now, in my opinion, from what I've seen, 95%, 90% of AJ fans now see where I'm coming from. Now see what the problems are, or at least see now there is a big problem. The last thing we can do now is sit in silence and end up being another one of AJ's patses, who just sit there and sideman it, sit there and take a check. Sit there and don't rock the boat. There's a whole bunch of non-boat rocking dons in AJ's camp, full of them. No one wants to call a spade a spade. And the spade that needs to be called is, where was your strategy? I'll tell you where it was. Nowhere. Because guess what? No one in your team made a strategy. How can you have a fight with no strategy? How can you go in there with one of the best boxers around and not have a strategy? AJ even confirmed it in the post-fight press conference. He said, "Yeah, well, we don't really have a strategy. We like to focus on what we do well. We like to focus on what we're doing rather than our opponent." What? You like to focus on what I'm doing? That's your problem, I'm afraid. At this level, yeah, it's a bit like, look at top sports teams. The NFL, everyone. Yes, NFL teams and yes, football teams work on what they're good at. But there's two areas, there's two parts of the game at this top level. Don't get me wrong. At small levels, yeah. For example, in boxing, if you're at British level, then if you're even in AJ's career, if you're at British level, yeah, but you're a world level athlete, then yeah, you can get away with just doubling down and betting on yourself and working on yourself. That can work at them levels. But when you get to the tip top, think about football. People have man markers where you mark a key player. You mark Ronaldo. You mark Messi. That's just one element, but there's other elements where you take your team into account. You counter your team. You counter your opposing team. Because at the top level, it's not just about you. It's not just about what you're doing. AJ, we focus on ourselves and we don't really focus about our opponent. Yeah, it looks like it. That performance looked like you hadn't thought about your opponent and you weren't thinking about what they was doing. Because you got in there and you really didn't have no answers. You didn't have no strategy. Like I said, I'd love for some of you man to tell me one thing, yeah, that you saw AJ implementing throughout the fight consistently, where you can say, yeah, this was clearly something they'd worked on in camp for their particular opponent, Usyk. For example, Usyk, I saw him always bouncing back after AJ put work in. Every single time. Usyk bounced back, and that's just one thing. Another thing, Usyk came out the gate looking to land the straight left hand. There's two things Usyk did every time. Where was it? I can't give you two things AJ was doing every time. I can't tell you. I just can't tell you. Tell a lie. The only thing I can tell you AJ did consistently was have a slow jab and a slow right hand. That's it. But that ain't really strategies. That ain't really a plan. When you look at top opponents, yeah, look at Alvarez. When Alvarez goes in there with Billy Joe Saunders, he knows that Billy Joe likes to bend at the waist. Timed it. Boom. Perfect. Little things like that. That's what you have to do. Now we know Alvarez weren't sitting there crying over Billy Joe Saunders and spending his whole life thinking about Billy Joe Saunders, but at the top level, that's what you've got to do. You've got to find the edges. You've got to find the holes in your opponents. If you don't, you end up going through the motions, wandering aimlessly as you was doing, just losing rounds. And before you know it, you end up nearly getting knocked out by a dude who you was, I'm concentrating on myself. Well, how did that work out for you? Because guess what? Whilst you was concentrating on yourself, Usyk was rock hard thinking about you and thinking about the things you do wrong. Oops. Every time AJ put his jab out and brought it back to his chest, Usyk straight over the top. That's why AJ's eye got bust up, in my opinion. AJ, and it's funny, in the 12th round, 11th round, Rob McCrappen says, keep your hands up. Well, too late for that. You should have been drilling that. AJ should have been drilling, elbows right in, chin right down, the whole through his camp for years now. That should have been the basis to go off. Look at Alvarez. Yes, Alvarez can drop his lead hand, but in the main, yeah, his elbows are in, his chin's down. Bottom line. Even Usyk, to be fair to him, very tight guard, chin right down, elbows right in. I hate to break it here, these are the fundamentals people are doing. I had goofies in my comment section telling me, AB, you think it's all about chin down, elbows in. Oops. Looking at Alvarez, looking at Usyk, that's how it does look. These are what good fundamentals. This is what builds, in my opinion, elbows down, chin down, elbows in, is a basis to build from. You can't build from a leaky defense. You can't build from a leaky pulling your hand back. If I jab really slow, as AJ was doing, slow jab, slow recoil, popped in the mouth. Oops, popped in the eye. Every time. Never once did AJ recoil back to his head. Straight back to his chest, as he's been doing his whole career. Same as the right hand. When AJ throws the right hand, he never just pops it out. He pulls it to his chest, fires it out, pulls it back to his chest. So yeah, Lennox, I understand that politically speaking, you're probably trying to massage AJ and whatnot, but he don't need no massaging now. He needs people with influence in the game. I don't have no influence. I wish I did. But people like you who have influence, you could reach out now. And to be fair, I think AJ's so caught up in himself and so caught up in Rob McCrappen, I don't think he can listen anyway, but at least try and say, listen, son, or whatever. This ain't it. But like I said, I don't think, honestly, we're going to find out in the next few weeks if AJ makes any changes, but from what I've heard from AJ himself, he ain't going to make no changes. He thinks that doubling down and going back to the drawing board in Finchley with Rob McCrappen, he thinks that's it. He really does believe they've got the answers. So, in my opinion, at this point, if that's the case, it's game over now. Yeah, this Usyk rematch will be 50-50 at best. The odds will be with Usyk, obviously, because of Rob. Because I just can't see what they're going to do. I can't see it at all. Rob McCrappen Rob McCrappen trying to save some face now. And it's interesting. An interviewer, or a question dude, asks Rob McCrappen a question. Rob, what's the plan got to be for... Or Rob, what's the plan got to be back on the drawing board? Or something like that, he said. And Rob snapped at him and said, we haven't got to go back to the drawing board. Obviously we've got to apply more pressure. Obviously we've got to assert a jab. Obviously we shouldn't be going backwards against a smaller fighter. I thought, no, Rob. I know you think that's what worries me, yeah? Rob McCrappen is clearly extremely manipulative. because his whole camp has been based on fruity tooty, no plan having ass, loosey goosey. But now he sees he's under pressure, yeah, because he lost. All of a sudden, he's talking sense now. Oh, it's obvious we've got to go in there with a strong jab and a stamp our authority. Well, it's not obvious, Rob, because you hadn't trained for that. There was nothing in your performance had anything to do with that, and we even know this because if you listen to Rob's corner, never once in the corner does Rob say anything about any of this. All we hear Rob say is light on the feet and stay behind the jab. Stay behind the jab isn't the same as drive forward with the jab. Stay behind the jab is when you do AJ versus Ruiz too. That's stay behind the jab. But all of a sudden, Rob McCracken in the press conference trying to make out he knows what he's doing, which tells me he's extremely manipulative. He's saying one thing to the public to make us think he's talking sense, and behind closed doors he's doing something else. But anyway, I'm glad, because Rob McCracken, in my opinion, has been training AJ to try and sustain the cash cow, try and not rock the boat. Yeah, well, if we can win, not taking much risk, and if we can win just, you know what I mean, being on the outside and not really committing, then let's do that. Unfortunately, look at you now, down bad. But again, I can keep blaming McCracken, but ultimately, the buck stops with AJ. Yeah? He's not 14. He's 60. He's 30 odd year old man. But I don't know what to say, people. It just feels to me like it feels a bit like the end of an era here. Because even if AJ magically got through the Usyk rematch, which I do think is a possibility, it's obviously possible because Usyk wasn't that far ahead, in my opinion, really. But the Fury fight, let's be real now. Fury's bigger. Some people say he's a better. You know what I mean? That for me it just gets harder, especially when you consider the attributes. AJ went in there, made hard work, and he had all the attributes. The Fury fight, Fury's got the height. So a lot of them jabs, yeah, that were landing against Usyk, they ain't gonna land against Fury at 6'9". Well, it's gonna be twice as hard. Not to mention the fact that Fury might even march forward, God forbid. And that's something I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch Fury marching down AJ, which at the moment, bearing in mind Usyk was more or less doing that, aka the 12th round. I'd rather him retire at this point. The last thing I want to watch here is Fury marching AJ down and have him on the ropes, you know what I mean, about to get knocked out. Just retire. Save your fans. You know what I mean? You got plenty of money. The last thing, you know what I mean? For your fans' sake, please don't stay with Rob yet and just milk the bank. Oh well, let's just take 100 million, you know, and we'll just get smoked by Fury. Don't do that, man. Have some respect for your fans and retire. That's what you need to do, in my opinion. Don't do that. Don't let your fans have to sit there and watch a dude with no power, no chin, smoke you. Yeah? There's got to be more in this. Not everything can be about money. Okay, no. You know what I'm saying? Where's the pride gone? And really, what we want you to do is go in there with a fair chance, with some decent training, and go and put it on Usyk, go and put it on Fury. But you just seem, I don't know what it is. You like McCracken got some spell over you. You can't see the wood from the trees. It makes me laugh that AJ brought in 2 new trainers after the Ruiz loss. So he knows something's not right, because you don't bring in new trainers when you got a problem. And I did videos on it, but even before this fight, AJ's talking about, you know, I'm going to go in there, Kronk style. I've been watching Manny Stewart videos, and I want to be like the Kronk. But you've got Rob McCracken as your trainer. Explain, why are you talking about other trainers when you've got a trainer? Clearly, there's inadequacies. Clearly, you know you're not being fulfilled in some way. You're not being satisfied. It's like a woman talking about another man. Yeah, this guy, I want to be like, I want him to give me the mash because you're not satisfying it. Yeah? Bottom line. If you've got a chick and she's talking about another man, you down bad. So Rob, he down bad. Because AJ, I didn't hear AJ mention Rob, no way. All I heard was Kronk, Kronk, Kronk. It's not good. In terms of stability, in terms of growth. You can't grow as a boxer, yeah, watching YouTube videos from Manny Stewart. That's not going to work. And it's worrying that that's what's happening. AJ trying to get influence from a YouTube video. Not in this game. This ain't Connect 4. Anyway, there's a few more comments here from Lennox. He said, AJ needs a knockout to win. AJ needs to move his head, fight the big man fight, and then set up his power right hand. Both men are headhunting. Need some body work if either wants to change momentum. Now, after AJ did a bit more body work for me, but it was, who cares? It was negligible. And again, there was no strategic intent behind it. We didn't see AJ actively. For example, me, yeah. If I was training AJ, we'd train different combinations. AJ, forget what Usyk's doing. We're going to jab coming forward. 2 uppercuts to the body. Let's get that combination going. Simple. Or you know what I'm saying? Get a circulation of 2-3 combinations. Jab coming in. Uppercut to the body. Left hook to the body. Staples. This is what we're throwing. Don't get caught up in that. Often fighters get caught up in that rhythm of just throwing jabs. This tonight was mainly all jabs, wasn't it? And a bit of right hand. Don't get caught in that rhythm. Mix it up. Take the fight to other places. AJ fought Usyk's fight tonight. The battle of the jab and the right hand. When we know AJ has got nasty uppercuts, nasty hooks. You didn't even bring them into the game tonight. And a few times you ended up toe to toe, I was thinking, wow, it's about to get kicking off. Next thing I know, you grab it on for dear life. Next thing I know, you're about to fall over. What? What's going on here? I've seen AJ in there with Takam and a bunch of other people. Toe to toe, digging his shoulder in, whipping shots. Where's that offensive confidence gone? Nowhere to be found. It's almost like AJ hasn't been on the inside once in about 2 years. That's how it looks. Honestly, I'd love to see AJ training. It looks to me, I don't know what to say anymore, people. I really don't. But maybe something happens in there. Maybe they know something we don't. That's the way it feels like. It's like AJ and his team know something we don't. Well, we know something. But I haven't seen that something. People say, oh, why be? It's because he's chinless. Well, he could have been knocked out today if he was completely chinless, wouldn't he? So that's not it. If he was chinless, Ruiz would have knocked him spark out in the first fight. Oops, didn't happen. If he was chinless, he'd have been knocked down once tonight. Didn't happen. So it's not chinless. So if it's not chinlessness, what are we doing playing games for? Why can't you commit and believe in yourself? Wow. Anyway, there you heard that from Lennox Lewis. AJ needs some big man advice right now. So I'm hoping one of them old heads reaches out to him and sticks it on him.